minutes, I think.
Yeah.
In the last few years or a long time ago?
Check.
Yeah, well, we checked right before
Yeah, I
we
don't think
came
I
just
saw
to
any
make
either.
sure. We thought, well, just in case they came and we didn't see it. But
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
You hear him.
Yeah.
All right.
My son-in-law was out the other night. He says he was calling and he said they were barking, but they wouldn't come in.
Good evening and welcome to the Stearns County Board of Adjustment public hearing for Monday, November 21st, 2020. Let us please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we begin the meeting, I have a couple of announcements to make. If you're in possession of a cell phone or some sort of other electronic device, I ask that you please put it on silent mode at this time. Also, please note that all testimony is being tape recorded for the record. If you're going to speak, you'll be asked to state your name and address for the record first, then go ahead with your input after you've been recognized by myself. Members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts, one member at large, and one member appointed from the Planning Commission. I'm going to give a brief overview of our proceedings this evening. I'll read out the variance request and open the public hearing. While I'm reading your request, I'd ask that the applicant or their representative come forward and have a seat in front of the board by the microphone right there. The applicant and or their representatives will be asked to state their name and address. Environmental Services staff will then provide a brief overview of the requested variance, the staff report, and if any correspondence has been received regarding the request. The applicant or their representatives will then provide any input, corrections, concerns, or comments. Once the applicant or their representatives have provided their testimony, the board will discuss the request and ask questions of staff or the applicant or their representative. And then upon completion of the board's question, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request. If there is, I will give that person a chance to come up to the podium, state their name and address for the public record, and give their testimony. When all testimony is complete, I will ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. Once the motion has been passed to close the public hearing, there will be no further input from the audience, from the applicant, or Environmental Services staff unless recognized by myself or if one of the board members wants some type of clarification. And so with that overview of our rules, let us go to item number 1, a request from Taylor and Samantha, is it Weisfenning from Villard, from section 9.311A1 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a principal structure home less than 50 feet from a side property line in an A40 zoning district. Said ordinance requires principal structures be set back a minimum of 50 feet from the side property line in an A40 zoning district. Affected property, the south half of the northwest fourth of the northeast fourth and the north half of the southwest fourth of the northeast 1/4 of government lot 1, and that is in Farming Township, and that address which is affected is 29634 Clear Lake Road in Albany, Minnesota. And then can I get your name and address for the public record, please?
My name is Taylor Weisfenning, and our home address is 521 Lake Street, Villard, Minnesota, 56385.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. There you go. That's all right.
No worries. Does he need to start over? Is that good? Oh yeah, if you want to start over again, just so we get everything recorded.
Hi, my name is Taylor Weisfenning, and my home address is 521 Lake Street, Villard, Minnesota, 56385.
Okay, perfect. And before I get to the staff report, let's see, by a roll call here, if I can ask who was able to visit the site. Dave?
Yes.
I was. Bonnie?
yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And Ken?
Yes.
All right, all have answered in the affirmative. And staff, to your report.
The applicants own a 57.32 acres of government lot 1. That's in section 14 of Farming Township. They purchased this tract in March of 2022. It was created in 1942, so it is a lot of record, and there's a building entitlement on this tract. A very large portion of the tract is considered wetland, and it's very challenging to site a sewage treatment system and home on the property. The applicants have submitted a wetland delineation report, and it has been reviewed and approved by Environmental Services. So The proposal includes constructing a 32 by 102 foot new residential dwelling that has an 8 by 22 covered porch on the front or the south side of it. The home would total 3,489 square feet. It will meet the minimum required setback of 100 feet from Spunk Creek, and the covered porch will be set back 35 feet from the south property boundary. Now, the proposed house location is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Spunk Creek, which is a tributary. Spunk Creek is on the impaired waters list for fecal coliform. A subsurface sewage treatment system design has been submitted and it was done by a licensed septic designer. Obviously, impervious lot coverage is not a concern with this request. An alternative to the request would be to eliminate the covered porch from the house, and that would increase the setback to 43 feet from the property boundary. Farming Township, the DNR and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of the request. And I do have one piece of correspondence from the DNR, and that's the only correspondence I received.
Okay, thank you.
You want me to read it into?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's addressed to me. Hello, David. I offer the following comments to be read into the record at the meeting. Thank you for the notice regarding the request to construct a home on the property located in the Shoreland District of Little Rice Lake at 29634 Clear Lake Road, Albany, Min. As stated in the notice to the DNR, the request is to allow the new structure to be less than 50 feet from the side property line. I have not seen the detailed plans for the proposal. However, I have reviewed the aerial photo of the site. This lot is nearly entirely covered by wetland. The area requested as a building site is likely on wetland soils that were filled at some point in the past. Historic aerial photos indicate the area was once entirely wetland. While the existing fill may not be a wetland violation, it should be noted that wetland soils are not adequate for building structures that require a foundation. Settling of organic soils causes foundations to crack. The primary function of wetlands is to store water. Depth to the groundwater should be considered with regard to basements and the potential for flooding. It also appears that there would be limited locations for a septic system that would not require further wetland impact. The DNR recommends denial of this request if there would be any further encroachment with wetland fill as a result of this proposal. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the request. Sincerely, Nicola Blake Bradley, and she is the area hydrologist for the DNR. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And applicant, to your variance request, anything you want to tell the board or anything?
I do just want to add on this wetland survey that was completed, the other one that they sent me from the county, I believe this appears to be a little bit older. The new one that we had actually had, there's like I think that was a 53-foot semi-trailer historical photo where that little white strip is. And I think there's a patch to the west that goes up in line. Yeah, yes, please, thank you. If I can get it to work, sorry. Oh, there we go. Let's see if I can get it. There, right in here, that little area, they deemed that not wetland, or as well. And then also over here, this little patch right here was a bunch of birch trees with a little bit of an elevation, and it actually kind of drags off over here. So our plan was to have the house. We have it backed up. We decided to do the 35-foot variance because the back kind of corner here comes right up. They deemed it not wetland, but there is an area of fill in there that was brought in, and I believe talking to the septic designers, they came out at 3 or 4 separate times, and we dug 2 holes for samples, and they thought that there were 2 to 3 fillings with the fill, but we wanted to do the 35-foot back so we could keep the foundation of the house on the fill. We didn't want to push it any further back off of the fill for foundation. And then we also considered, we believe that after talking to our builders and septic people too, that having like a retaining wall, like around 5 feet from the house, just to prevent any further shifting of the foundation, and then help keep anything off of the wetland as well would be a good idea. So we were a little bit more conservative in that approach. And then this is an older, kind of an older. That was our first design. This was actually a Rambler style home that we designed, but then after talking to the septic design, they thought that our septic system would work much better with just a single story home. So that's why this is looks a little bit odd as well. And everything with the septic is clear. It's 10 feet from the house. And then also with that increased area from the wetland delineation, this septic design is completely out of the wetland, so we'll have no further wetland encroachment like the DNR was worried about. So I think that is about everything. And also with this Rambler style home that we designed, we wanted an area, and this one we had a porch out the back, so we had a smaller front porch just stepping up, but with the limited area of the home, we opted to try and do a larger porch if possible, so we could, do have a little bit of recreational activity just out in the front of the home rather than out the back, because we're not going to be encroaching on the wetland out the back. So I think that is all I have to add, unless you guys have any questions.
Any questions from board members for staff or the applicant?
I'd have a question for staff. I think in that DNR statement, they said that they did not view this particular location, that they just looked at it on an aerial photo.
Mr. Chair, Member Gamrat, that's what I'm seeing from her comments. I didn't actually visit the site.
Yeah, I have it in here. It says, I have not seen the detailed plans for this proposal. However, I have reviewed the aerial photo of the site.
Okay.
Quote.
Because my experience with aerial photos, sometimes they can be deceiving. I've had my experience was I had a rock pile on top of a hill was deemed a wetland at one time from an aerial photo where they didn't view the property.
Any other questions or comments? If not, or did you have?
I was going to ask
Yep, go ahead.
the applicant. The front porch is 22 feet. That's what's going to encroach into the 50-foot setback. Or do I have the house backwards?
So it's the 8 feet that'll encroach onto.
Correct.
Or the 8 feet?
Yep. The covered porch in total is 8 feet by 22 feet. However, the way that the garage sits, it comes out 2 feet past the house, so it would actually be 6 feet closer. And when we had the house staked off as well with O'Malley's, they came out and they did everything. It was actually about 36 feet. It was supposed to be 35 feet, but it was actually 36 feet to the very corner of the porch. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else wishing to? If not, anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this variance request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? Got to ask one more time. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? Seeing and hearing none, I'm asking for a motion to close the public hearing.
I so move.
Motion from Dave,
I'll second it.
second from Ken. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have now moved into our closed session where we will begin the questions for the finding of facts. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Bonnie Mossman, yes, it is. It's an A40, and homes are allowed in A40s.
Okay, we have a yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So number one is a yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
I would say yes, it is. And looking at 9.3.1.c is maintaining suitable boundaries. And although the setback is 50 feet, or in the guidelines, it's a setback from a wetland. And so the purpose of those setbacks was to, make good neighbor relations, and this isn't an issue there.
All right, yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so number two is a yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with a comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Schweigel, I'm going to say yes under living goals number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages of all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes.
Okay. A yes from Rob. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Ken? And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I would say yes, he intends to build a house, which seems to be a reasonable manner. And there is a building entitlement on this property.
A yes from Ken. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I would say it's unique to the property because of the shape and location of the property.
Okay, a yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
I would say yes. They made great efforts to place the house and the septic system where it would not affect the wetland. And so I think it will not change the character.
Okay, we have a yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so a yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I think economics weren't discussed in this application.
Okay, yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken? And I'm a yes. So with that, all 7 questions being answered in the affirmative, I would look for a motion and a second to approve the variance request.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the variance of 35 feet from the side yard setback.
Okay, motion from Bonnie. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Ken. The remaining votes. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So with that, the variance request as presented has been approved. If you have any questions or comments, please contact staff during regular business hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Now moving to agenda item number 2 to consider a request from William and Jill Sieben of Richmond, Minnesota, from sections 10.211A, 1A, and 10.211A, 2B of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to replace and expand a legal non-conforming principal structure, a home, partly on an existing foundation less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level, and partially within the shore impact zone 50 feet of Cedar Island Lake, classified as recreational development. Said ordinance allows for a replacement but not the expansion of the structure and requires a minimum setback of 100 feet on lakes classified as recreational development. Effective property, 2.40 acres of Government Lot 4, Section 36, Munson Township, and the property address is 20608 State Highway 22, Richmond, Minnesota. And if I can get your names and address for the public record, please. Okay, perfect. And is it on? All right.
There. Do you want me to redo it?
Yeah, if you would, please.
Bill and Bill Sieben, 20608 State Highway 22, Richmond, Minnesota, 56368.
Thank you very much. And then before we go to staff report, can I get, we'll do a roll call of those who were able to visit the site. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So we all were able to visit the site. And staff, to your report, please.
The applicants currently own a meets and bounds property that is 139,379 square feet or 3.2 acres in lot area based on their certificate of survey submitted with their application. This tract was created in 1948. The applicants acquired the property in March of 2021, but it has been in their family since 1991. This property is in an R1 zoning district. There are 2 homes on the property. The original structure was constructed in 1940 per our county assessor's records, and it's used primarily as a guest home. Little bit of history on the permit history on the property. A previous owner in 1975 obtained a conditional use permit, and that was to operate a 14-unit campground on the property. And the existing homes were actually on the property at that time. In 1980, a previous owner obtained a variance and a construction permit to replace a 26 by 50 quote-unquote store and washrooms, and that was with a setback of 60 feet from the lake with the variance. In 1986, that same owner obtained a construction permit to add a 24 by 32 garage to the house, and the use of that structure switched from a store and washrooms to an actual residential dwelling, and the department at that time acknowledged that the use of the structure had changed. Total square footage of the existing primary home to be replaced is 2,548 square feet per county assessor's records. Now, with the proposal, the applicants would like to construct a new 3,740 square foot residential dwelling. The existing 26 by 50 foundation will be reused, and new footings will be added for a proposed crawl space and a 28 by 28 attached garage. And that garage is what would put the structure in the shore impact zone. They have provided documentation from a professional engineer that the existing foundation will be adequate to carry the proposed design loads per their submitted building plans. The existing 24 by 32 attached garage, which was permitted, that will remain as is. And then the proposed 28 by 28 garage addition will be located, as I stated, within the shore impact zone. That'd be 46 feet from the ordinary high water level. And then there'll be a new deck on the other side of the home. That would be 89.7 feet landward of the ordinary high water level. This proposed dwelling would have 3 bedrooms, which is the same as what's in the current structure. As I stated, the property is in an R1 zoning district. It's within the shoreline overlay district of Cedar Island Lake, and Cedar Island is on the list of impaired waters for nutrients and mercury in fish. The existing septic system is sized appropriately for the proposed number of bedrooms, and that was certified compliant in September of 2022. Lot coverage is calculated at 16%, and the proposed, according to their certificate of survey, would be 16.7%. One alternative to the request would be to reuse and expand the existing foundation as proposed and eliminate the proposed 28 by 28 attached garage, thus keeping the structure out of the impact zone. It would be 62 feet. Yet another alternative would be to construct a new home that meets all the required setbacks. So there is room on the property to do that. Munson Township, the Sauk River Chain of Lakes Association, Sauk River Watershed District, DNR, City of Richmond, and owners within 500 feet have been notified of the request. There is mitigation options prepared by Stearns County Soil and Water. Those are included in the packet. And I wanted to highlight a recommended condition. If a variance were to be granted, that we would ask the applicants do a declaration of restriction and record it in the county recorder's office prior to any issuance of a construction site permit, which would declare the residential dwelling unit, which we are looking at tonight, subject to the variance, being their principal structure on the property. Again, that's only if a variance were to be granted. I do have correspondence from the DNR on this request as well. Hello, David. I offer the following comments to be read into the record at the meeting. Thank you for the notice regarding the request to replace and expand a legal non-conforming home in the shoreline district of Cedar Island Lake, 2608 State Highway 22 in Richmond, Minnesota. As stated in the notice to the DNR, the request is to allow the new structure to be less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level and partially within the shore impact zone. I have not seen the detailed plans for this proposal. However, I have reviewed the aerial photo of the site. Legal non-conforming structures may be replaced in the shoreline district as long as the non-conformity is not increased in any way. Although this lot has a significant amount of development, including more than one water-oriented accessory structure, it appears that there is room to meet the required setback without needing a variance. The DNR recommends denial of the request to expand a non-conforming structure in the shoreline district and within the shore impact zone. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this request. Sincerely, Nicola Blake Bradley, area hydrologist. And that's all the correspondence I have, and it's all yours, Mr. Chair.
And applicants, if you have anything you wish to say to the board?
You mean, okay. So first of all, thank you for your time and hopefully an open mind to my dreams and my wishes. I've complied with everything you've asked from me without any hesitation, even though I really wanted to build bigger and higher, but I've respected your thoughts and regulations or recommendations or requirements. So I did the surveying and then I hired the architect. I had to do the inspection of the foundation to see if the weight was going to be okay to it. And then I did the septic inspection. A few comments I'd like to make. for that setback for the lakeshore property, it's actually a peninsula that is the lakeshore. Well, you've seen it. So with the high hill and the lakeshore is down by the peninsula, which isn't really public access to anybody. I feel like where it was, when it was a campground, they were there, you know, all the time. And that's kind of where I want to put my garage. So it's just another permanent building that would be there instead of the campground. Do I have a limited time? Because I like have a speech, but I don't know how much I can cover. I feel like, you know, having things sitting out like cars and boats and stuff, I'd like to make the property look nicer, and that's why I wanted the garage up there. I've removed a brown shed, which I believe was 22 by 24 off the property, which was down by the lake. So I feel like being now wanting to build a garage on the top would be better if they're worried about flooding. I'm not sure why they have those setbacks, if it's flooding or what the reason is. I don't understand. It's a pretty big hill, as you know, so I have a LP tank down by the lake, which is about 25 feet from where I want to put the garage, and water has never touched that LP tank. I just think building the house, you know, it's old, it was in the family, and my mom and dad passed away, so I bought out all the siblings, and now I just want to make my house a home and kind of make it how I want to. I feel like when we opened up like some of the ceiling rafters, there was a fire in there years ago. So I feel like building on the already existing just will make it safer, back to code, and build it the right way as I would like to. I wanted to make it bigger, but they really wanted me to stay in the foundation. Because on the other side of the house is my septic, so I couldn't go that way. That's why I had to go that way. And there's a lot of land on that side. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for staff or the applicant from board members?
With the letter from the DNR, when they were looking at the aerial photo, they commented on 2 water-oriented buildings. Is that one of the ones that you had removed, or?
I don't know. I felt when I read that it was you. Did you get that?
Or am I thinking that from a different DNR letter?
Mr. Chair, Member Mossman, so Nikki did make a comment on that, but there's no, we have no issues with the structure,
Okay.
the structures that are on the property. That's not part of the request tonight.
That's.
So yeah, so it's good to clarify.
I just wanted to bring it up because it was in her letter, and I wanted it brought up so that it's acknowledged that that isn't part of an issue. Okay, thank you.
And I guess I have a comment to the property owners. They aren't concerned about the water coming up to your house. They're considering the water coming off, going down to the lake. That's the issue with the runoff from when you get too many roofs and it gets too close to the lake and whatever. That were there plans for any gutters or anything to direct the water away from that? Those are all things we need to consider.
For staff, Are some of these water basins already in existence that they show on this proposed, or that says proposed?
Right. Mr. Chair, Member Gamrot, I believe, yeah, that's what Stearns Soil and Water had put in for proposals.
Okay.
Those areas in blue.
Okay. And my question for the applicants, would you consider all the proposals?
Yeah, for sure, we would put gutters on, answering your question. And yes, whatever we need to do.
Any more questions or discussion you wanted?
Mr. Chair, I guess to that point, just want to make sure the applicants.
Can you repeat that? I was having a hard time picking it up.
So there's an echo.
Oops.
Could be maybe it's my hearing aids.
No.
They're not that good.
Bothering me.
That was all me. Sorry, I clicked a button. That was
Okay,
me.
we're good.
Sorry. So that's just me. And then that was my fault. Sorry, my fault. So the question that Member Gamrot had for the applicant is whether or not they are willing to implement Soil and Water Conservation District's mitigation, and the applicant stated she'd be willing to do gutters and whatever else she needed to do. I want to make sure that that's clear to the applicant, that it's more than rain gutters on the building. It's what's on the overhead. It would be native buffer. It would be an infiltration basin that requires construction of a swale. And I also would like to remind the board that just because you can require mitigation isn't a reason to grant the variance. You first have to go through your criteria for granting the variance, and only then, if you feel that you've met the criteria, does mitigation come into play. We've talked about that the last few months.
I guess then I have a question for the staff, because the DNR says that they would have room to move the house completely and meet all the setbacks. So is there any reason to not just completely, if you're taking it down to the footings anyhow, just go one step further and build everything new, and then everything would be set back? You would need no variance.
According to my belief, that was my only option when we were filling this out.
Well,
We
that's what
had
I'm
to stay in the footprints.
I'm asking the staff too, because the DNR is the one who brought this up.
Mr. Chair, Member Mossman, there is room on the property to meet all the required setbacks. So that's not the request that the applicants have brought forward. They want to reuse the existing foundation and build off of that and
That's why I'm asking,
add
is there
on
any
to it.
reason why, they could just go the whole way and then they wouldn't need any of this. They wouldn't have to worry about this,
Their desire is to work with the existing footprint.
oh, if that's their desire, then
Mr. Chair, Angie Berg, Environmental Services. So to that as well, and I don't know if we stated this in the staff report or not, but the applicants also need to understand that if the variance is granted and it's built, anything you do in the future requires a variance because you're in the shore impact zone. So I'm not sure who gave you the advice on that you have to use the existing foundation. That's a myth. That's not true. It has nothing to do with what you're asking for tonight. The area that's up on the map, that's here, this area right here. This entire area meets all the required setbacks.
Can I approach this screen for a minute? Can I show you guys something?
We have a pointer.
It's just that land right there is right behind the guest house, and there's not room to get between the garage and the guest house to get back up there. And that's a real steep hill coming off at 22. We'd have no driveway to get up there if you built the house up on the hill.
And then to add to that, we'd have all that open land. That would look, I mean, I know you guys have all been out there So it would all be open land, and then we'd have all that clutter, and you don't have the view of what we have there now. So we couldn't move the house to the right because of the septic. So that's why we kind of had to stay in the same footprint without going closer to the peninsula water, to the lake.
And a question for staff. Is it basically the addition of the garage that would make the variance required? Because they could build in the same footprint without a variance?
Mr. Chair, Member Mossman, anything they want to do to that existing structure requires the variance. There is no building line available here, so the required setback is 100 feet.
Okay.
They could replace the entire structure as to what it is.
That's what I mean.
If they expand in any way,
Right.
up, out,
But they
that
could
requires
replace exactly the same size as what's there
as what's currently there, yes.
without a variance, right?
Correct. Yes.
So can I add something? So at first we went up 32 and they said we can only do 30. So we dropped it to 30. And so that would be 2 variances. And so now we're just asking for the 1, which is the garage, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I have a question for the applicant. How are you going to get in that garage up there?
Oh, well, do you remember coming up the hill and going all
Yeah.
the way around? Just like
Well,
that?
I was more focused on the garages down below.
There's a road all the way around.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah, 2 driveways.
You
We
won't
have
have to
2
alter that at all. You won't have to expand the apron out in front of the garage or anything.
No. Right now, there's no windows down below, so we don't get any like ventilation or anything.
Any other comments or questions from board members for staff or the applicant? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this variance request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? If not, can I please get a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Motion from Bonnie.
I'll
guess
second.
Second from Dave. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the public hearing is closed. So now moving to our findings of facts. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, it's R1 district and houses are allowed in R1 district.
Okay, a yes from Dave. Bonnie,
Yes.
Rob,
Yeah.
Ken,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 1. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no under this ordinance, the section stated by staff 10.2.11A, which
Okay.
says that in no case any principal structure shall be permitted closer than the following distance on recreational developments laid closer than 50 feet.
Okay. Dave,
I would agree with them.
okay. Bonnie,
I'll agree.
okay. Ken,
Yes. Or- I'm agreeing with them.
okay, okay.
I don't know if it's a yes or a no.
That'd be a no. Yeah, I'm a no as well. So no for number 2. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Schweigel, I'm going to say no. Under Lakeshore Living Policies number 3, discourage the alteration of natural shorelands and the creation of impervious surface in or near shore areas.
Okay. No from Rob. Dave?
I would have to say no.
Okay. Bonnie?
No.
Ken?
No.
I'm a no. No for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. Yes or no?
I would say yes, updating a residence to new and modern standards would be reasonable.
Okay. Yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And Ken?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
I would say it's a unique property because of the way they're on a peninsula, and that creates a lot of the problems that they have.
Okay. Yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
No.
Ken?
I would say no because they're adding the garage, and that's what's causing the problem right here.
Okay. And I'm a yes. So a yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
I would say yes. It's just the house would change, but it's among other houses in the neighborhood.
There are other large houses.
Right.
So a yes from Ken. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And I'm a yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
I'll say yes. I don't think economics were the driving force here.
Okay, a yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken? And a yes from me for number 7. So with 2 of the questions answered in the no category, we're going to have to look for a denial for the variance as requested. I'll need a motion and a second on that.
I'll make a motion to deny the variance.
Okay, motion from Dave, second.
I'll second it.
Second from Rob. Okay, the remaining votes, Bonnie? For denial. So it'd be yes,
Yes,
for denial.
yes.
Yep.
For denial, yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So the variance is denied, but if you'd like to talk to staff during regular business hours, maybe we can work something out through there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now moving to item agenda number 3, which is an after-the-fact matter to consider the request from Dennis and Tracy. Is it Dale Eden? Dale Eden. Very good. Trustees from South Haven, Minnesota, from Section 10.211A 1B of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to leave as constructed 2 accessory structures located less than 200 feet from Fairhaven Creek, a designated trout stream. Said ordinance requires accessory structures to be placed a minimum of 200 feet from a designated trout stream. Affected property of the west half of the northeast fourth of the southeast fourth of the northeast fourth, section 31, and the southwest fourth of the northwest half of section 32. And that property address is 6300 140th Street, South Haven, Minnesota. And if I can get your name and addresses for the record, please.
Dennis and Tracy Dahl-Aiden. Dennis and Tracy Dahl-Aiden, 6300 140th Street. Want me to start over?
Does he get to start over? Or? Yeah, if you would, please.
Dennis and Tracy Dahl-Aiden, address is 6300 140th Street, South Haven, Minnesota. 55382.
Thank you very much. And then for the record, for the site visits, we can get a roll call of who visited. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob? Ken? And I visited, so all of the members present visited the site. And staff to report, please.
Applicants purchased, there's 2 parcels there totaling 160 acres in November of 2015. The properties are located in an agricultural 40 zoning district. The sheds and home are within the shoreland overlay district of Fairhaven Creek, which is a designated trout stream. A little bit of history. So they purchased in November of 2015. In 2016, they were granted a permit from the Township of Fairhaven to construct a 48 by 56 pole building. That was in July of 2016. The county is actually the permitting authority because the structure was within 300 feet of Fairhaven Creek. There's correspondence between Environmental Services staff and Fairhaven Township in August of 2016 that indicates the applicants should have contacted Environmental Services about the need for a county permit. The structure is located approximately 125 feet from Fairhaven Creek. In 2017, the applicants were granted a shoreline alteration permit to partner with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District to implement a water quality improvement project, which stabilized some eroded waterways and reduced sedimentation effects on the trout stream. 2018, the applicants were granted a construction site permit to build a new home with attached garage and deck. That was in April of 2018. And the county issued that permit, Stearns County. Now in 2021, the applicants were again granted a permit from the Township of Fairhaven to construct a 40 by 64 pole building back in May. Again, Stearns County would be the permitting authority for that structure because it's 63 feet from the trout stream. So the required setback is 200. So the property and structures are in the shoreland overlay district of Fairhaven Creek. Fairhaven Creek is not on the list of impaired waters. The existing septic system serving the home is less than 5 years old, so it did not need to be certified. Impervious lot coverage obviously is not a concern with 160 acres. Fairhaven Township, the Clearwater River Watershed District, DNR, City of South Haven, and property owners within 500 feet were notified of the request. There is proposed mitigation in your packets from Stearns Soil and Water Office. County staff would offer that given the considerable natural buffer that's already established between the sheds and the creek, that the mitigation option number 2 of maintaining the existing no-mow buffer would be a viable mitigation alternative if the variances are granted. And I do not have correspondence for this request. No correspondence at all. So with that, you can take it away, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And applicants, anything you wish to say to the board about your variance request? Okay. Questions from board members to the applicants or staff?
I have a question for staff, and if they're not able, then maybe the applicants. In 2016, when Environmental Services notified the township that they gave the permit came to the wrong place, were the applicants also notified of that? That they received the permit from the wrong place?
Mr. Chair, Member Mossman, not to my knowledge. They weren't notified.
They weren't
that was
notified.
Correspondence between the township
Okay.
and the township liaison staff person in our office,
Okay,
and that's as far as it went, I believe.
okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I have a question. How then did they go a few years later and do the same thing all over again that they were told not to do? In 2016, they were told they couldn't give this permit. And in 2021, they turned right around, the township, and issued another permit.
That's a question that we can't answer. That's probably an appropriate question for the township.
I think they'd have records though.
Mr.
The permits were both signed by the same individual.
The township is here, so you might hear from them if you open the hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff. There's an email from Donald Klumpke to Fairhaven Township, and it says that they need to talk to the petitioner or the applicant and have him stop what he's doing. Should the county have followed up on that? I mean, if you got somebody building next to the trout stream and you're telling the township to tell him to stop, shouldn't somebody go and see if he stopped?
Right, we should have. And we didn't. And now the property owners are stuck in the middle of a township and a county issue for the second time. And that's why we're addressing them both this time. And we try very hard to get copies of permits from townships, and we don't always get them right away. And so this would have been dealt with a lot sooner had we gotten copies of Fairhaven's permits sooner, within 30 days as we're required to. Then the second one probably wouldn't have gotten built so soon. But absolutely, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have done something in 2016, because we should have.
Well, I'm going to agree with you on the first one, but I have concerns about the second shed, being that the applicants now have built their house through the permitting authority of Stearns County. Why go back to the township to build again? That's what I don't understand. There's no answer for it. I'll ask the applicants, why would you build your house under a permit from Stearns County and then go build another building with a permit from Fairhaven?
Well, I had a general contractor that built a home.
So the contractor
Came
did
to you
that.
guys first, came to Stearns
Oh, he
County.
took care of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we built, I didn't realize the creek was where it's at. I didn't have a clue that there was a trout stream there, because they farm some of that property for years and years and years. And then when we did the CRP, the Stearns County Soil and Water, we also tilled some of that up, and we planted grasses in there. So I didn't have a clue that was a trout stream. Does that make sense?
To us, I think she would like you to move closer to your microphone, because she's out there waving like this. Yes, is this stream, that's a question I have, because we have trout streams in our neighborhood too, and some of them are regular streams and some of them are what people call intermittent streams. The only time you see water is a month or two in the spring and occasionally after a heavy rain in summer. So now do you have water all the time or just on occasion?
They're just on occasion in the spring when it runs off. But there is do you see that line that goes to the right, where the orange line is, and it also goes to the right? There's water in that constantly, so I always thought that was a trout stream. Does that make, yeah, right there, yep. Well, I didn't have a clue that one going to the west was a trout stream.
I would, Mr. Chair, question for staff. To me, it looks kind of fishy because their orange line that they drew there has no dark spots, where there would be a stream running either through that farmland or through the woods or even across that other field. or other part of the swamp, is there an opening? It doesn't look like there's an opening in the grass or anything where water runs. So I would question, how far, question for staff would be, how far does this trout stream go? Does it go across that farm then?
Mr.
I mean, is it a
Chair.
real trout stream, or is it maybe the trout stream? I could see where it should have went the other way, but not that way.
Yeah, the DNR is the entity responsible for designating the water body. And so
Well-
the county's not involved. They
Yeah.
they map it, they designate it.
Yeah, I mean, if it looks to me, if I was looking at the map and not viewing it openly, they would say that there might be water run there occasionally, but it wouldn't be a trout stream. A stream that runs in a heavy rain situation and then dries up for the rest of the time is not really considered a stream.
That's kind of the very nature of a trout stream.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of, they're not 20 feet deep. They're very shallow.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where the stream going up the other way looks more like that would be part of the trout stream, because it looks like it's open to water.
We have a lot of them in our neighborhood are the same way. You don't know, and they all, once the DNR says, oh, that's a trout stream. After I put my irrigator in, they go, well, this trout stream, I said, a long way. Well, it's a mile and a half away. And they said, well, the water, because I'm drawing from underneath, that's the water that feeds the trout streams. They get cold spring water. So you don't know if you live by a trout stream until you come and you want to do something.
No.
Right? Dave's agreeing.
Many people don't, well, Dennis alluded to it. He didn't know it was a trout stream. So many people don't even know they have one on their property.
Well,
it's not uncommon.
What is the designation for a trout stream? Any place that water runs?
So I'll just jump in a little bit. Obviously, we're getting a bit off track. The state law identifies the exact location of trout streams. So we can all disagree or agree that it should be or shouldn't be or whatnot. But the fact is, we have to follow the orange line on the map. And so if the ambiguity or frustration that you're all seeing with the orange line is a reason for you to consider granting the variance, then you can continue your conversation. But we can't move that. That would actually take legislative action, which is different than even a different type of stream.
Okay.
So
my question was, when the state made those, did they go off a DNR recommendation, or was that something the DNR gave to the state and said these are trout streams?
The state legislature back in the 1960s told the then Department of Natural Resources, it was different back then, they studied all of these water bodies and they determined where the trout streams start and stop. So again, we can't have the debate of it shouldn't be or shouldn't be. That isn't our debate to have. We can't change the orange line. And as Dave indicated, the very nature of trout streams is that they're not always full of water. So I think that your discussion could also factor more into the fact that the applicant may or may not have played into the need for the variance based on the permitting history with the township. It is a trout stream. It has to be a trout stream. We can't change the location of it. I understand that it's kind of this misnomer, but
I think at some time probably somebody should challenge that some of these things are not trout streams. I mean, the DNR is not always the best people to work with. I have experience with that. But
the DNR controls the fish.
Yeah,
so if there's fish involved, it's the DNR's ball game.
Yeah, well, I mean, the DNR isn't always nice to work with.
Are there any other questions, comments for the applicant or staff members?
I have one question for staff. Let's say it's not a trout stream. It's just Fairhaven Creek. What's the setback?
Mr. Chair, Member Schwagel, it'd be 100-foot. Tributary's 100-foot.
Well, even if there wasn't trout in there, it's too close to the water.
The most recently
Right.
constructed, yes.
All right, any other questions, comments? If not, motion or anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this at all? Yes, please do. And please state your name and address for the public record, if you would, please. Thank you.
And make sure you turn the mic on there. Is it on?
Green light?
Is it green light there? Yep. Oh, good to go then.
I'm Ruth Johnson. I'm the zoning administrator of Fairhaven Township. Have been since 1981. In regards to what's happened on Dennis's property, it's still, I could see the green, but it wasn't on. I'm Ruth Johnson, zoning administrator at Fairhaven Township, and have been in that position since 1981. I live at 6582 Aspenwood Road, South Haven, Minnesota. And on issuing the permit to Dennis for that second building, we had just moved into a new town hall, and under the direction of our chairman on the board, they didn't want anything up on these beautiful new walls. So we had not put up our soil map from the county that showed where all the water area that is restricted. And, you know, myself and our other board members, we just kind of relied on our memory. And of course, when we look at this lovely little map, it doesn't tell you much, you know, because everything is shrunk down. But I did call and got a new one for our township. And when you start with the little teeny blue ones and you start going out with the setbacks on it, there's a lot of blue in Fairhaven Township. And I'm sorry that we were negligent in issuing the permit to Dennis. And I guess, you know, we'll move on from there. But that is a mistake that we made at our level. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak to the item? Anyone else? Seeing and hearing nobody else, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Motion from Rob, second.
I'll second.
Second from Dave. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. And remember, this is an after the fact. So is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
That's
We're doing after
the A40 zone.
It's an after the fact. So you
So
gotta
yeah, that's all,
look at
yeah.
all those
And
other things.
buildings are approved.
Yep.
Are an approved practice.
Yes from Dave for number one. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so it's a yes for number one. Number two is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official control. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. The general purpose behind the restrictions is to protect trout streams, which need the most protection of any kind of habitat for fish. So I'm going to say no, being that they're that close.
Okay. Dave?
I would say yes, because according to the things that we see on the map, there's no marks of any water run there that tells me that that's a trout stream. Usually if I think of something as a trout stream, it has to have water in it.
Okay. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes, but for the reason that, if we look at those A through E questions that are on the top of our sheet, we talk about, did the applicant make a substantial investment? Is the construction complete? Yes. Yes to both of those. Are the county's benefits outweighed by the applicant's burden? Certainly their burden is going to be greater than what, for removing that building, would be greater than what the county would benefit from it. Plus, I'm looking at primarily A, which says, did the applicant act in good faith? So, the township was here and testified that it was an error on their part to issue them the permit. And so I believe the applicant did act in good faith. So I am going to say yes to number 2.
Okay, Ken?
I'm going to say yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Yes for number 2. Number 3 is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Well, I would normally say no to that one in this situation, except for the statements that I just made about those questions on the top. Therefore, I will say yes.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. A yes for number 3. Number 4 is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control. Yes or no?
I would say the property owner thought he was being reasonable and probably didn't know that that was a trout stream. And I don't know if I was ever told that I have a trout stream on my farm. So.
Okay, yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken? Yes. And I'm a yes, so a yes for number 4. Number 5 is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner.
Well, I would like to say on number 5 to say, instead of saying unique to the property, but maybe say unique to the situation. Because it's unique because they were acting on a permit that was given to them, in error, and that happens sometimes. So I would say yes to number 5.
Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
I'm going to say yes, but it wasn't a mistake. It was mistakes. They issued them 2 permits.
Yes.
So I'm going to say yes.
Okay, Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 5. Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes or no?
It won't change anything.
So yes from Dave then. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so a yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations.
I would say economics weren't part of this discussion.
Okay, yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So therefore, all 7 questions being answered in the affirmative, I would look for a motion and a second to approve this variance request. And with the
And possibly before we get a motion, do we want to discuss if we think there's any mitigation that we would require with approving it?
Well,
Did the county come up with something?
Soil and Water Conservation pretty much said if they stick with the option number 2, which is to maintain what is already there, they would be okay with that.
Yep.
So,
And the reason I bring it up is just so in the record that we
right.
In the record.
that we
Yep.
discussed it.
You can't go clean cut it down to the creek there. Somebody will see it.
All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a variance with the condition that they do not mow or clear the vegetation between the sheds and the waterway.
Okay, there's the motion from Bonnie. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second from Dave. Remaining votes. Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So with that, your variance is granted. If you have any questions, comments, please contact staff during regular business hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on now to agenda item number 4, a request from Scott and Kathleen Schaefer's from the Kathleen Schaefer's Revocable Trust of Shoreview, Minnesota, from section 10.211A, 1A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a principal structure home less than 100 feet landward of the ordinary high water level of Rice Lake, classified recreational development. Said ordinance requires principal structures be set back a minimum of 100 feet from a lake classified as recreational development. Affected property, 10.92 acres of government lot 1, less than except lot 1, block 1, KG's Addition in Eden Lake Township, and the property address is 17905 Deep Valley Road in Paynesville, Minnesota. And if I can get your names and address for the public record, please, and make sure the microphone is on, because then she'll have to come in and yell at you. So,
we don't want that to happen,
No.
do we? No. Scott and Kathleen Schaefer's, 653 Birch Lane South, Shoreview, Minnesota, 55126.
thank you. And then a roll call of members who are able to visit the site. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
I visited, but I barely got out of there.
I'm glad you made it out. Ken?
We were kind of in the same boat. We didn't turn that way because Bonnie said go that way, so we went that way, and you can't make the turn. You can't
Throw me
turn
under
to
the
the
bus.
left back up in there. But we saw it.
And I made it out as well. So with that, I'm glad we all made it back safely. Everybody was able to visit the site. And so staff, to your report.
The applicants own 10.92 acres, part of government lot 1, except lot 1, block 1 of KG's Addition. And they also own that property. They acquired the property from family in August of 1995. It actually has split zoning. It's R5 to the northern half, and the proposed house location is in R1. The existing 840 square foot cabin on the property was constructed in 1935 per our county assessor's records. The applicants constructed a pole type building in 2011, and they had a valid permit to do so. The applicants now would like to construct a 3,386 square foot new residential dwelling with a deck and attached garage. And that would be 84 feet from the ordinary high water level of Rice Lake. They are not afforded a building line on this property to lessen the setback from 100 feet. And because a building line would require a principal structure to be located on the adjacent lots. Should the variance be granted, the applicants propose to demolish the existing 1935 cabin. The proposed house location is in R1 zoning district and in the shoreline overlay of Rice Lake, which is a recreational development lake. Rice is on the list of impaired waters for excessive nutrients in mercury and fish. A design for a new septic system has been submitted by a licensed septic designer. The proposed impervious lot coverage would be approximately 5.7% per their certificate of survey. An alternative to the request would be to move the proposed structure 16 feet to the north and west to meet the required setback. the Township of Eden Lake, the North Fork of the Crow River Watershed District, Rice Lake Association, DNR, and owners within 500 feet have been notified of the request. Proposed mitigation options are enclosed in your packets. And staff would concur with mitigation option number 1, maintaining the existing buffer as a viable mitigation option should the variance be granted. I do have correspondence again from the DNR, and I'll read that in. That is the only correspondence that we received. Hello, David. I offer the following comments to be read into the record at the meeting. Thank you for the notice regarding the request to construct a principal structure in the Shoreland District of Rice Lake at 17905 Deep Valley Road in Paynesville, Min. As stated in the notice to the DNR, the request is to allow the new structure to be less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level of Rice Lake, which is the standard setback to the recreational development lake. I have not seen the detailed plans for this proposal. However, I have reviewed the aerial photo of the site. With over 10 acres of land available, there is room to meet structural setbacks to the lake. I expect that the applicant cannot meet the requirement of practical difficulties. The shore impact zone is completely within a steep slope near the lake, which is not considered a bluff. Steep slopes are prone to erosion when significant vegetation removal or when concentrated flow occurs, such as can happen from impervious surfaces like building sites in close proximity to the top of or within the slope. Removal of trees will be necessary in order to construct the home regardless of where it is placed on this parcel. The visual impact from the water should be considered regarding the size of the clearing in proximity to the shore impact zone and steep slope, which extends beyond the shore impact zone. The DNR recommends denial of the request to build a home that does not meet the structural setback to Rice Lake. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the request. Sincerely, Nicola Blake Bradley, area hydrologist. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
I have a question. Why are we hearing from the DNR so much now? We never used to. No idea. It's odd.
Only when they recommend denial.
I brought this up at the planning
This seems
commission
strange
last
to
week,
me.
guys, because we had one. I got 4 letters from them in one day, 3 for this and 1 for the planning commission, and they almost all read exactly the same, and they all requested denial at the end. I said somebody must have lit a fire under them or something that we did. Right, we didn't hear from them for years.
I've never.
Once I got, it's just lighting up. Dave's sending out these things every 15 minutes. And
I just thought that was just odd. I mean, it's very new. So anyway, sorry, applicants, to your request, anything you wish to say to the board?
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you tonight regarding our request for this variance related to the building of a lake home on Rice Lake. And as part of this discussion, we'd like to highlight 4 things for your consideration. The first is that this property has been an important part of my family for over 100 years. Even though we live in the cities, this lake property that we're talking about tonight has been in our family for over 100 years, as can be seen actually in this family show and tell.
Wow.
This is actually from the early 1900s of a picnic on the property, and my grandfather and grandmother were newlyweds in this picture. So we're just not cities folks that are coming out to build on it in the country here, okay? My dad and 2 of his brothers, when they were teenagers, along with a carpenter, actually built the original cabin in 1935, as your records show. And it has hosted generations of families and friends through weekends and family vacations. I literally grew up on this lake. It's where I learned to swim, fish, hunt, water ski, and we pretty much spent every weekend we could while I was growing up out there. My great-grandfather homesteaded a farm just north of Roscoe, so it's about 5 miles away from the cabin. And this is still in our family today. In fact, Kate and I still own it. We're the 4th generation, and that has been in our family now for 161 years. And growing up, I grew up in Wilmer, and I went to St. John's like my dad and uncles. So this place, Stearns County, this whole area is a very important part to my soul and where I want to spend, my retirement years.
So as we looked at the design, this is our retirement home. We want to be living in this community, on this location. We also didn't feel like this 1935 cabin built by some teenagers is really what we wanted for our retirement. But we want to be on this location, and we looked at designs, and we thought, well, we don't necessarily want to try to just do that footprint. We want to look at something that's going to help us age in place. We went through 3 different designs, really thinking about just how it's going to look from the water, how it's going to look as you come in, and we wanted to minimize some of the footprint with it, but have the space and the accessibility that we know we will need as we age in place. And the final design is a walkout, which actually takes advantage of the existing topography. So when we look at the topography map, you can kind of see that we have kind of a steep slope from the top of the hill going down, then it's kind of a level area, and then a steep slope going down to the lake. So we wanted to be able to take advantage of that slope, and our architect really did a lot of thinking and looked at the best location, and this was what we ended up with. And we did also want to just stress that we care deeply about this lake. We've been members of the Rice Lake Association for decades. Scott even served on the board as VP during the 90s. So this idea about keeping this lake clean is a priority for us, and we feel like this design, with where it's at in the location, is going to also offer us that potential to keep this a clean situation for us.
One other thing I just want to add too, and we think of this as important because a lot of people talk about being environmental stewards, but Kate and I really live it. And so with our farm near Roscoe, over the last 30 years, we have been taking land out of production and putting it into the CRP program, as I've heard a couple of you say, or it is brought up in some of the other requests. This year, after a 3-year process, our whole farm is now in a conservation easement. So it's all in native habitat, grasses, wetlands, trees. So I just want to stress that we take these concerns and issues very seriously, and we really tried to incorporate it in our design as well as the placement of the property, of the structure on the property.
And we were very disappointed to hear that DNR review as well. For one thing, and you all hopefully saw the property even if you got stuck out there, but the property, there's a couple of other buildings. There's another lot that's right next to it, that KG's Addition. So we don't want to go too close to that property line. And the DNR didn't really look at the property firsthand to see what it looks like. It's a beautiful wooded spot, and we're not trying to pack too much into this property. They didn't view the topographical map. They just looked at an aerial photo to see, just the contours of the land. And they didn't view that plat map that has that separate parcel on it. And so, we really feel like they didn't necessarily give it the attention that might have helped them see why we're looking at this specific design.
I think the one thing I would add there too, and you heard it in her note, is, well, they have over 10 acres there. They can build someplace else. And I know since the board has reviewed our application and the fact that you all made it out there, should probably get a badge of survival for doing that in the snow and everything. We're looking to build a lake home, not a home back in the woods stuck into the hill, not a home that's going to be back up on the township road. This is lake property. And the configuration of the lot, the placement of the pole barn, the position of the separate parcel really precludes us from moving it back further. And as you also look at the contour lines, we talked to great lengths with our architect about how far could we go back and still do a walkout. And he was pretty much convinced that this is about as far back as we could go without having to excavate out even more land. I mean, I'm thinking we're talking thousands of cubic feet of soil if we have to go back to meet the setback requirement. So we have revised our design several times. Our initial design was at a 75 foot, but we knew that wasn't necessarily keeping with the intent of the rules. So we worked with the designer to make that happen. We really feel like a walkout and keeping it on one level is going to provide the visual and not impair the visuals both from the lake and from the land as you're coming in. And it's going to allow us to age in place. I've had 3 knee operations, and the idea of going up and down stairs in a 2-story house just doesn't seem like that's going to be in the cards for me down the road. The other thing I would add is that we're also committed to maintaining this natural buffer that was brought up about from the top of the hill down to the shoreline. Yeah, as you can see, the contours on that, that's so steep anyway, there's no way you'd be able to clear that out or mow it or anything else. And personally, we like that privacy and to have that natural look. So in summary, we appreciate the board's charge in terms of reviewing this request and appreciate that you must balance the intent of the variance with practical considerations. We hope that you recognize that we approach this project thoughtfully and with the idea of minimizing the environmental impact it'll have both on the land and the lake. And we also hope that you see that we have taken steps that what we could to mitigate the need for this variance request. And when it's all said and done, you know, we're really only asking for 15 feet along those lines. I know it says 84, but part of that was the deck was going to be extended out from where the footing was. So it was my understanding the footing was the line, but whether it's 84 or 85 feet, that's what we're asking. So thank you.
All right. With that, any questions from board members to the applicants or the staff? Are we kind of good to go?
I guess I'd have a question for the applicants. Is there a reason that you couldn't go 10 feet or any further from the lake than you are?
Yeah, so if you look at the map here. Oh, go ahead, there we go. Okay. And how do we turn this bad boy on?
Yeah, there's something.
There you go.
All right. So, oh, there we go. I'm sorry, Dave. When I
Did you just press that?
Okay.
So don't screw that bottom part in.
Yes, sir.
No.
All right. I'm having technical Can I walk up to the map and do it?
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
We'll go old school.
A little bit old. Yeah. So the question is, why can't we move this back? And part of it, again, is so as where the structure is proposed, this is back another 10, 15. Plus, as you look at property line with the other parcel, and
And also following the road into somewhat, yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Although there is nobody in said audience, I'm required by law to ask these questions. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this variance request? Anyone wishing to speak to the variance request? Anyone wishing to speak to the variance request? Hearing nothing and seeing nothing, I'm looking for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Motion from Bonnie.
I'll second.
Second from Dave. All those in favor of closing public hearing say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So now moving to our finding of facts. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located. Yes or no?
Homes are allowed in an R1 district.
Yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so yes for number one. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. They're encroaching on the lake and putting the water resources at peril of being within that 100-foot setback.
Okay. Dave?
I would say the excavation that we'd have to move more dirt if we move further away would probably create more peril to the lake than allowing it to be 15 feet closer.
So you're a yes?
I'm a yes.
Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes for the reason that it, well, you'd back that house right up onto the property line of that other rectangular piece that is kind of unusual in the middle of this property. So.
Okay, Ken?
I'm going to say yes just because they explained that they're using the lay of the land there. So if they move it back, they got to move a lot more dirt. So that would be the least intrusive way they could go as far as I see.
Okay. And I'm a yes also, so yes for number two. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no under Lakeshore Living Policies number 3. Discourage the alteration of natural shorelands and the creation of impervious surface in or near areas. And also Water Resource Policy number 1. To adhere to adopted plans and regulations that maintain, restore, and enhance the county's water resources.
Okay. No from Rob. Dave?
I would guess I would have to say I'm a yes because it moves less dirt and disturbs the environment less than by moving it further away and excavating more.
Okay. Yes from Dave. Bonnie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Mr. Chair, I do need you to list a finding. I need you to list a specific
Oh, okay.
comprehensive plan, goal, or policy, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I said yes, and I would say Lakeshore Living number 2, it says encourage shoreline protection. And I think even though you're encroaching on the water, we're protecting the shoreline by doing less excavation.
Okay. So yes with the reason there. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. Yes or no?
I would say yes, they're asking for a lake home on a lake that they've had property on for over 100 years. I guess it would seem reasonable.
I'd agree, and clearly they're going to take care of it with that, that buffer zone that's already there and maintaining that, and they're at pains to, be good stewards of land. So I'm a yes as well. Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
All right, a yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
I would say the whole shifting closer to the lake it's unique to the property because of the way the elevations are. If they'd move it further away, they'd have to excavate a lot more dirt and cause a lot more disturbance.
Okay.
So it's unique.
Yes from Dave. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes and then add to Dave's description that rectangular lot that's in the middle of the property is unique. You don't often see that, right. And it adds difficulty to the placement of the home.
All righty, yes from Bonnie. Rob?
No.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
There's other lake homes in this area, and so it won't change the character of the community.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Mr. I'm going to say no. They just don't want to move the house. It's not that they can't, they don't want to.
Okay.
Which to me is money.
Okay. Dave?
I would say they don't want to do a lot of excavation, and that's the reason for this whole variance.
So yes?
I'd say yes.
Okay. Bonnie?
And I do agree with Dave's reasons, and I would say yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so a yes for number 7. So all questions being answered in the affirmative, I'd need to find a motion and yeah, and we need to see if there's any restrictions that we want to put on that or any conditions rather.
Says if they maintain what they already have.
Yeah.
But it should still be in the record.
For sure.
Yep.
Okay, so I'd make a motion to approve the request with the condition that they maintain the existing buffer, which would be between the house and the lake, the buffer that's currently there.
Okay.
Now when these things go, that goes forever. Somebody else can't come on 20 years and change it, right?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Second from Dave. Remaining votes. Rob?
No.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so the variance as requested is granted. Any questions, please contact staff during business hours. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd just like to add, the staff was really fantastic to work with. I've been got to ladies different things, and then they took us over, but they've been very helpful with answering all our questions. So
Yep, thank you.
Let's also point out this guy on the end, he's holding 2 walleyes, or I mean 2 northerns.
Oh, good fishing in the lake.
There you go.
Yeah. Here, we're taking the picture.
And so, yeah, we've got agenda number 5, the minutes. Did everybody get
No,
them?
we
I
didn't
don't
get
know
any
if
minutes.
I did.
And it said for 2 months, I think, or for 2
Yeah,
Mondays?
for September 22nd and then October 27th.
Why don't we just put that on for
Okay.
December?
So just, yeah, let's do that. That's
'Cause I
fine.
waited till 5 o'clock and I checked that there were none
Okay.
sent out. and-
Yeah, we'll get that. Wait, I'll let you act on that, and then I'll comment.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll move that to the next meeting, and then any items for our December 22nd meeting.
I believe there's 3.
Okay.
One of them, one's been to the board before, this is for a different request.
No.
And one is amended request from October.
My only comment, Mr. Chair, was going to be we were able to fill Lori Loken's position. The individual started today. She's came from a different department, so we're very hopeful that she'll like us, and I think we're going to like her. So the minutes and things we're really trying to get caught up. So thanks for your patience.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
I just have a question, just my own curiosity. This last one, where they ended up, did they ever comment how that ended up, that they ended up with that little rectangular piece in the middle of other property they own? Because it looks like they own both parcels, but how that ever came about, it's just so unusual that I just wondered.
Yeah, and I looked into that too because I said to Dave, it's kind of curious. So from what I could tell, Scott's grandpa and his uncle years ago, they had a cabin there, right? And so then in order to get into different ownership, then they did this plat. And then they did an easement to the lake, which has, I think, subsequently been eliminated according to the survey. But yeah, it was a family situation where someone wanted to get their own little piece. And that's what they did around that other old cabin.
Oh, it was just interesting to see
So is that road a township road, or does everybody else have an easement? Because the road runs right through their property. That...
Township road, I believe, but the township doesn't maintain it.
Clearly.
That's the one with the chain across.
Yeah.
Just made for a long walk.
Not very good. I just still can't get over how odd it is that the DNR is commenting on stuff now. And obviously, if it's a denial, but I don't ever.
Well, that last line of sentence is pretty much just
yeah, it's
standard.
Yeah, it's like type.
Yeah, if you read all 4 of them, they all were the first paragraph almost was identical. There are a couple little comments, and the last part is all identical. It's almost like a canned statement.
It's been a while.
I've been here since 2017. I don't think I remember.
No,
There was, but yeah,
we've commented on that through the years that they don't seem to come with anything, and then to see 4 of them in one day's time.
Well, we didn't ask for it. So,
Yeah.
Because like I said the other night, Dave said he's had issues. I had some issues with them a number of years ago, and I talked to them. I brought the issues to them, and I waited over a year for a response. Finally, I went in, and a different person was there other than Nikki, and we resolved it in like 2 days' time. It was,
Yeah, and it was a situation that it was advantageous to them. We weren't asking for them to change something for us. We've found an error and brought it to their attention and said we need to pay the fees for this, just so we get in alignment with it all. And it took them a year and a half to resolve it.
Well,
You know, we owed them money and they didn't seem to want it.
I've got some things that for 25 years, they said we're going to do this and this and this in the settlement, and they put 11 acres of cattails into public waters, and they still have not given us all the things that they agreed to give us, and it's been over 20, 30 years ago.
Very good.
Very good.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Slam it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right, very good. Meeting's adjourned.
Dave, the first tune from Bonnie was on. Somebody by South Center.